Welcome to All Creatives Now, a brand new one-stop creativity spot where you can find all the information and resources you need to unleash your creative potential.
Looking at the growth in the creator economy and facilitating conversations amongst creatives about what it is to be a creator in the modern world.
Join me, Paul Stevenson,
And me, Kev Harrison,
as we interview creatives from a range of disciplines about their journeys, their passions, their struggles, and what it means to them to be a creative in the modern world. There has quite literally never been a better time to be a creative.
Get your work out there into the world.
Welcome to another episode of All Creatives Now. My name is Paul Stevenson, and with me, as always, is Kev Harrison. Kev, how are you doing?
Hello there. I'm doing all right, thanks. Yeah. What an exciting conversation we have got coming up with Mr. Luke Kondor. We cover so many areas of creativity. It's like it's a bit of a long one, eh?
It's a massively long one, so we're going to keep this introduction relatively short and sparkly, much like ourselves. But yeah, just before we sort of get into it, Luke is an author, a podcaster, a video maker, an all-round creative,
comic creator.
Yeah, he does the lot.
We could go on.
He's also, and we do get into this a little bit in the interview, but he's also very much a community builder, and the community of writers that he's built around Hawk Cleaver, is very much the reason why you and me know each other, for one thing.
Yeah, totally.
So he's a bit of a hero, just in general terms, but he's also a fantastic creative. And before we get into it, he's going to talk in this about his Kickstarter for My Dog Shit's Cash. We're going to drop a link in the show notes. Before you even go anywhere, before you listen to this interview, go and click on that and go and back the Kickstarter because it's fantastic. I've actually had a sneak read of a little bit of the book and it is so funny. I've backed it. I've
backed it as well.
And it's fantastic. And watch the video because it's great. But okay, we're going to give you a second to go and do that. So, okay, now you're back. And we're going to get into the interview with Luke Kondor.
So here we go.
So our guest today is one of the most multi-talented people I've ever had the misfortune of coming across. He's a filmmaker, a podcaster, an author even. He's
orthodontist as well.
An orthodontist. He's a purveyor of all things bizarro. And an all-round good egg. Oh, and also he owns his own publishing company. So, a man of many, many hats. So welcome to the show, Luke Kondor.
Hey, thanks for having me. I have about 3 hats, actually.
You're wearing one of them right now. Which hat is that?
Yeah. Hat number 1. This is the best one.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a weird shaped head, so I have to find the right hat to sort of turn mine into a good shape, to like the good egg shape, and this pretty much does it.
Yeah, solid headgear.
It's solid. I'm also cursed with a slightly oddly shaped head, but it's also unfortunately one that no hat suits. I've yet to find a single hat that actually suits this head, which is it's a damn shame.
I've just got a giant head, so I can't buy hats because they never fit.
I was going to say you've got an amazing head, Kev. You've got one of the best heads I've ever seen.
It's gigantic.
It's not that big. Where I used to work, they had like the boss who was a bit crazy. He had like a diving bell helmet for a bit of decor in the corner of the office. Everyone could put it on apart from me. I just couldn't get it over my head. I was the only one who couldn't wear the diving bell.
I bet I would be there. School games. I'd be in there with you, definitely.
And obviously, we've got a fairly interesting assortment of beards going on here across the across the feed. So that's quite good. I think it's interesting because Kev and I have opted to try and extend our faces in hair form, whereas you've gone for very much of a kind of a fitting your own form, which is kudos to you.
Yeah, beards. I mean, so I haven't clean shaved in 20 years or something ridiculous like that because I hate it. I only have a beard because I just hate shaving. But if I go any longer than this, which I have done many times before, it goes sideways. My beard starts to go towards my right shoulder, which is a bit strange. Yeah. So I have to keep it quite trim.
I had a beard when I first met my wife. It was more of a goatee thing, but it kind of then sort of blossomed outwards. And for definitely is the word for it. But she once said to me, you should really try shaving it off. I'd love to see what your face looks like without it. And so I went upstairs and I shaved and I came downstairs and the first thing she said to me was, how long do they take to grow back? Which I thought was a ringing endorsement of my face.
Lovely
So
stuff.
yeah, but
Lovely
the good
stuff.
thing is I now get to have a beard for the rest of my life, which I'm quite happy with because
Hurrah!
again, no shaving. So yeah.
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 But we didn't really bring you on to talk about beards.
Sorry.
So I mean, we could just do a good half an hour on beards and beard care. And
I mean,
what's
for
your
the for
favorite?
the audio listeners, that's going to be really poor. To be honest, the audio audience is not going to get much out of it. I feel.
No, that's very true. That's very true. Audio listeners, just be aware that there are some fine beards on display here.
Yeah.
But yeah, but we can move on now. So Luke, obviously, why don't you tell us a little bit about your sort of superhero origin story, as it were, for storytelling? When did you first get the storytelling bug?
Oh wow. Okay, so I was a weirdly, I think so. I lived in one town till I was about 11 or so, and we moved. I think I was quite a popular kid in that old school. I was a normal kid in the old school, and then we moved, and then I broke my arm, so I couldn't play football with all the kids. I always get left out. I can't wear diving bell helmets with all the cool kids. I can't play football with all the cool kids. So I just spent a lot of time on my own, in my own head, in this new town. Didn't know anyone, and I kind of found comic books and found reading, and I just spent hours and hours in my own head coming up with ideas for stories. In fact, I remember the very, very first story I came up with. It was dead original. It was called The Fox Men, and it was led by like this professor guy who was bald in a wheelchair called Professor Fox,
Hmm.
and there was a team leader called Biclops, and I don't think I actually had a story. I just had like this team, superhero team, obviously, who were going to
Was
fight.
was there a pulloverine?
I think I just had Wolverine. I don't think I could think of anything that worked. So it was Biclops, Professor Fox, and Wolverine.
Very good. Where did you get the
Yeah,
inspiration from for that?
it's all from my own head. I think personal experience. I mean, I don't. I mean, so since that, I mean, I was always kind of writing and making stuff. I think I wanted to do comics and I wanted to draw comics and make comics initially, but I'm a terrible drawerist. So at some point, I I know what happened. I started playing guitar, and if you start playing guitar at the age of 14, that's pretty much you done for the next 10 years in bands, traveling around the country trying to make something happen. I think
Yeah.
you two might be in a similar position, right?
Yeah, I was a
You
screamer,
did
but
some,
yeah, same
Yeah,
same deal.
yeah.
About
I'm
10
a
years
screamer.
of bandy things.
yeah, yeah. So I did that for a while, which was very fun. But then at some point we started a student radio show to play local indie bands and that kind of thing. And we also interviewed the local chip shop owner, who was like a conspiracy theorist. His name was Barry, and he was going on about how UFOs are stealing the water. And it was a lot of fun. But the best thing about that show was I used to write and record and make studio like little radio sketches, comedy sketches, and they were awful, really. Like they weren't good. There is some on YouTube somewhere, but I just really enjoyed that writing something and putting it out to an audience. I think it was like 12 people who listened to it. It wasn't a lot of people, but that feedback of like hearing people laugh or whatever experience they had to that thing that you wrote was kind of uh, I don't know. It was a feeling that I still just try and recapture every time I write something. It's thinking about how that's going to come across to an audience, and then I think from there we left university, and I started writing short stories and screenplays and stuff. Made a few short films, and the very very first short story I was like, okay, this is. I think before I was just playing. This is kind of my voice. This is the kind of story I want to tell. It was like a 250-word short story called "The People Who Live in My Beard," and I was like, yeah, there's something about that I don't know. Like it felt like it. Foxmen. Okay, I admit the Foxmen wasn't very original. That was coming from somewhere. I must have seen something around that theme topic before.
No
But
one will ever know, but yeah, fine.
people live in my beard was like it felt like I was expressing myself for the first time, like properly. Like it felt like it was coming from something. I'm sure there were influences, but it wasn't a narrow lane of influence. It was a much wider, broader spectrum of influences that were coming together, being filtered through me and coming out, and the story was ending up on the page. And that is a flash fiction story. So what happens to flash fiction stories? Not a huge amount. I think some people read it and liked it and stuff. But I don't know. It was that first story when I was like, okay, I'm just going to write short stories now. And then did that for a long time. Made a few short films. I mean, the story could go on for a long time. That was like 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's been a long ride from that one short story to wherever I am now, I guess.
Yeah.
Whereabouts did the sort of the sort of germ from those short stories? Where did it develop into, say, what you're doing with the other stories? How did that come about?
Okay, so while I was doing short films, I lived in Derby for a little bit, and we were doing short films with some local guys around there. And I was working in like a little Apple shop, selling Apple computers and stuff. And the guys who work in Apple shops tend to be people who are creative, who've just thought, I want a job that has anything even remotely related to a creative pursuit. You get all sorts of creative applications on Apple computers. So I'll get a job working at Apple. So everyone there kind of was kind of coming from a similar kind of perspective. We were between university and our adult jobs, and we made this like really cool little. I would call it a studio, which is a bit weird because we had a job to do as well. But at the same time, like we had like a guy who was really in photography, another guy who was a music maker, and we come and we constantly show each other what we were working on. And we had like a giant Apple TV at the back of the shop. We'd close the doors at night and just like throw up what we've been working on. We'd critique each other's work. It was a really amazing, like, little creative community we had. And then they closed that shop down, so that kind of disappeared. I moved to London, found myself completely alone and cut off from other creators, which I hate to have. I like to be surrounded with creative people, all working on their own little weird little nuggets of art. And then how did this happen? So I really wanted to make short films because I don't know. It was an interest at the time, and I was applying for grant. If you want to make a short film in England, you can apply for arts grants. And I was trying for about 2 years to try and get some kind of funding, about £2,000 to make a short film, but nowhere would have me. I couldn't fit into the diving bell helmet. I couldn't play football with the kids at school, and now I can't get money from the government. I don't understand what's wrong with the world. Always the outsider. I don't know. I was trying for 2 years. I was getting really angry at that. I was like, I've got like a cool film I really want to make, and I think this is going to work out really well. But I just couldn't get any traction at all. And I said, I can't remember what happened. At some point, I just said, okay, I'm going to make a short film on my own in a week. I've not got any money, so I'll make it for no money. I've not got a camera, so I'll make it without a camera. I ended up using like a screen capture software to make it. And I didn't have any actors, so I had my fiance and I just had her act as herself, and I made myself a character in the film. Just use anything available to me to make a short film. Did that in a week. It was called Keith. Put it online, and it did really well. I mean, it's like it came out a month before or a month after Unfriended. So this was like before the screen capture film thing happened, and now they're kind of everywhere because they are very easy to make. But it got like 50,000 views in the first week, and that was the first time I put something out there before that had gone from like, we want to, as you're making stuff in this world, you make stuff, you put it out there, and so often it just feels like you're burping into the wind, and no one even wants to smell it. Like, what's going on? I just need some reaction from someone somewhere. And I put this film online, and then it went on not Dig. Is that website still there? I think it's gone now. Dig. Remember Dig?
I remember
God,
Dig.
I haven't been on it for a long time. Yeah,
no idea.
It's probably not there anymore. It's like front page on Dig.
It's gone the way of MySpace and Friendster.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah. So I was getting like loads of comments and emails and replies, and it was the first time I was having a real conversation with a larger number of people. And then I think that kind of kick-started my need for wanting to do more and create more, and it like gave me like rejuvenated my passion for storytelling. And I think at some point to the other stories that started because so I was doing a podcast that I don't think Kev's been on yet, Paul's been on the podcast.
Haven't been on it yet. No.
I've been lording this over him. I basically just keep phoning him up every sort of couple of days and going, "Have you been on Luke's massive storytelling podcast thing yet?"
Yeah.
Because
4
I
a.m.
don't know if you
4
know, but I have.
Absolutely outrageous.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's on another hiatus in a minute, so it'll be another 5 years before you can come on, Kevin. I'm
That's
afraid.
fine. I'll try to be alive in 5 years then.
Good. Yeah. So I was doing a podcast as I made that short film. I was documenting it on that podcast, and it's kind of a vlog, but without the video side of it, I guess. And then I started to invite other people on the show to do the same thing. I say, you've got 7 days. You have to decide what you're going to make and make it within those 7 days, and then you can experience the fun of the challenge yourself. The first guy was my friend Dom, and then Ben Errington did one. He wrote a short story and published it on Amazon KDP in a week. And then another friend, Matt Skip Butcher, did his own. And then we kind of just stayed in contact. I really enjoyed that. That kind of reminded me of that experience working in the shop. Like it's like a creative community we were building.
Yeah.
So me, Matt, and Ben were like, okay, we're publishing similar stuff. So let's call it a story studio. And then let's start publishing stuff under the same banner, under this Hawk and Cleaver banner. Matt knew Dan Wilcox, who I'm guessing you might have on the show at some point. He's on all the shows.
He keeps like ringing me up and saying, "Come on."
At 4 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah,
A lot
exactly.
of podcast conversations going on at 4 a.m. in the morning.
It's when we're actually recording this now at 4 o'clock in the morning as well. So
yeah.
So he'll be on the phone to me any minute. I don't actually just want to before you do go back on, I do just want to say, Keith, that short film, if any of our listeners haven't actually checked that out, we'll put a link to it in the show notes. It's incredible. It's well worth 7 minutes of anyone's time.
I actually watched it today because I didn't think it was available. I remember reading a blog about it a while ago that you posted somewhere, and I didn't think it was available like to the plebs such as I. And it was very much available to the plebs such as I. So I watched it today on the train, and people looking over my shoulder going, "What the hell is that?" But I thoroughly enjoyed it.
It's a weird one because I don't think it kind of holds. I wouldn't say it holds up as well today as it probably did at the time, because it was all recorded on a computer screen. I feel like that kind of gimmick has probably been done quite a few times now. At the time, I think it felt a bit more fresh.
I think there's a strangeness to it, which I think is a very kind of an almost hallmark quality of all your stories. Like I think your stories are very difficult to kind of group together in any kind of like genre in a conventional sense, but there is this like strangeness that kind of permeates all of them, and that was very much like what I got from it, which was what I enjoyed about it as well.
And Foxmen is like has a strangeness to it as well. I should bring Foxmen back out of the cupboard, wherever that cupboard's gone. I don't know.
I would say with it, with Keith, I think the thing that really sells it is not anything to do with the technology. I think it's got a really good sense of like comic timing. It's like an almost it's the timing works as a comedy, although it's not necessarily funny. It's kind of just quite unsettling. But I think I think that won't age, and that's the strength to it. But I'm a big fan of that. But yeah, so
that's good to hear.
But then you started. Then you started putting together the team of Hawk and Cleaver, I guess.
Yeah, we didn't really know what to do at first, and I guess we still don't really know what to do. But there was myself, Ben, Skip, and Dan, and it was, I think it was like January 1st, 2016. We all got on a Skype call, and we were like, what do you want to do? And I don't know how this all came about, but one of us was like, let's do a way to promote ourselves. Let's do a little book of short stories every single month. Month one will be, we'll each write one short story and we'll create like a tiny little book. Month one will be alien invasion, because that's a really popular genre of fiction. Next one will be like zombies. And we'll just do a different theme every single month, and we'll put it out as a book, and we'll make it free. The back of that book will be like links to the other books that we write and the other projects we're working on. And then we, because I had the background in making student radio sketches, and I'd been podcasting with Luke's Luke's massive storytelling podcast thing. And I don't know if you knew this, but I used to be a freelance podcast editor for a company called Freedom Podcasting. And I was supposed to start. I don't know if I could talk about this. I was supposed to start editing
Talk about it. Go on.
the Tim Ferriss podcast.
Ah.
Whoa.
I was doing a few of their podcasts, but it got to the point where I decided that I was either going to have to do that, only that, and become a podcast editor, and that would be what I do, or I could focus on the writing and storytelling, which is more of what I wanted to do. So I kind of told them I didn't want to do that anymore because that was such a time suck, and that's absolutely awful. Really, an awful job if you're a podcast editor who's editing a 2-hour conversation about the stock market. You have no idea what they're talking about, and you have to do the blog posts that go with them as well. Because I'd tell this isn't worth the money, so I kind of sacked that. So I started to focus on the storytelling stuff. I said I could turn this into a podcast. We all write stories, 1,000 word story a month, each of us. I'll find a narrator or a friend who's an actor or whatever, and we'll work it out. And then that very quickly became the main thing, and the idea of the book and the magazine kind of fell away because that wasn't doing anything at all. It was kind of weird when the other stories first started because we put it up, and sometimes when you make something, like when I made Keith, I remember, and when I wrote The People Who Live in My Beard, I remember as soon as I finished them, that I had the same feeling of, I think this, even if no one else likes it, I can tell this is something that's it's like it's tickling some part of me, some part of my creative inner soul that I was put on this earth to do that thing. And when I made Keith, I felt that way. When I wrote that short story, I felt that way. And when I listened back to the first couple episodes of the other story, I was like, this is that again. I don't know if it will do very well, but I could kind of tell it might. Like I could kind of tell that there's something working here. There's some, I don't know, strange mixture of things coming together here. And I don't think many other people are doing this. So it might do quite well. And then it did. I don't remember how the numbers worked. I think the first month we got like 1,000 downloads, which was like pretty cool because my other podcasts were like getting between 10 and 20.
Yeah.
So that is awesome. 1,000 downloads a month, I'll take that. And the next month it's like 10,000 downloads. And I was like, whoa, that's insane. And the next month after that, it just kept growing and steamrolling. And then we were pretty much just writing short stories and making the podcast and just trying to keep this thing going, trying to desperately hold on to whatever success we'd managed to latch onto. Because I think we all come to those points every now and again. Something's really working, but we don't recognize that it's happening at the time. We don't kind of make the most of that opportunity.
Yeah.
We kind of saw this and we're like, this is it. Let's grab this and just like do everything we can with this. And then that's been like the 6-year journey. That's how it started. And it was very difficult at first to keep that going, keep writing short stories every month, which doesn't sound that hard now. But at the time we were new writers, we didn't quite know what we were doing. Keep finding narrators, keep finding music. It's haven't missed a single Monday for 6 years. And we very nearly have done many times. But we were kind of learning how to create a content machine or an engine that makes content, which I think we've kind of fine-tuned a lot now. And we kind of know. I'd say we don't know what we're doing. I'm joking earlier, but we kind of know what we're doing with this particular thing that we do. We'd like to get better, but I think that's I don't know. That's a never-ending. You will never win that goal.
You never get perfection, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's quite a big team now. There's quite a few people. You've got different audio editing, but also different talent sort of behind the mic and what have you. And obviously that's quite aside from the different
people running the socials as well. What have you.
Yeah. So how many people are kind of involved in running the podcast aside from the people writing it now?
Probably like, I think there would be like 10 core people. And then, but I also kind of include our regular narrators and our regular writers. I kind of include everyone in the studio. In my mind, the story studio, Hawk Cleaver, is kind of everyone who. It's not like a closed office that you kind of have to find a sneaky way in. I just see it as like the shop where we let people inside and they could grab a table and start working on something and talk about it. And like this collaboration with you guys, how did you guys get to know each other?
It's
How
funny,
did you have
actually.
this podcast?
Yeah, it was through Hawk and Cleaver, wasn't it? Basically,
Yeah.
like through the Hawk and Cleaver group, we started chatting. And it's interesting you describe it that way, as kind of like an open shop for people to come in and kind of display their wares, because that's kind of very much how we envisaged. That was actually probably the thing that I was most enthusiastic about when Paul kind of talked to me
Yeah.
about this idea, was to bring people like you in here to talk to us, and for us to glean your wisdom, your delicious wisdom from your skull, but also to be able to put like your but also to be able to put like your future releases, for you to be able to use us as a channel for your like publicity and advertising, that kind of stuff as well, so we all kind of stay as a community and go, oh yeah, remember that guy, yeah. He's got a new book out.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
I mean, I think for me, Hawk and Cleaver's actually been kind of quite instrumental for me, because I moved my entire family across the country about 4 years ago, and kind of left all my friends behind and what have you, in my sort of social group. And I hadn't really, I mean, certainly the pandemic kind of hit at the wrong time and what have you, and I hadn't really met my tribe around here. And at the same time, you kind of very graciously sent me an invite and said, "Hey, we've got this Discord group. Do you want to come and join?" And it's really kept me going from a creative point of view. And I actually feel like it's quite a really nice little family that's in there. It's the only social media really that I don't feel compelled to join in on. I love being there. It's the first thing I check every
Yeah.
morning, and it's a really nice little group actually. And I think I might have struggled to keep the creativity going, as things were. But in fact, I've kind of gone the other way and just kind of taken on stupid amounts of projects. Kind of, again,
Yeah.
slightly looking at you, Luke, and kind of and saying, well, if he can have 17 projects, then why can't I? So yeah.
And what is sleep and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of feel like I'm a naturally lazy person. I don't know if you know that. I'm quite a lazy person.
I don't think that's true. I mean, I feel like you think that's true, but I don't feel that's true.
Well, it might seem from the outside like I'm doing a lot more than I am. What I would say is, so over the past 6 years, we've been working on the other stories, and like I said, we've been adding people to the community, and with more people helping out make the show happen. A lot of time, what I do is, I my job now is to handle a lot of the pre-production stuff. So make sure the stories are getting to the narrators are happy, the audio is coming in. But also, I spend a lot of time building systems and like making. If I'm finding that I'm having to rewrite the same content, or if we're having to redo the same thing over and over again from scratch, I tend to just work out other ways to do that, to try and automate as much as possible, to make it as easy as it possible for me, because I am a lazy person. I am, for example, chasing up narrators can get a bit. Um, I don't want to be hounding people every week to say, "Have you got that audio?" Yeah, because we really need it. So instead, I just built a system using Notion, which me and Paul have talked about before. Which and this is, I'm a kind of a technically minded person anyway, so I enjoy this kind of thing. I made a system in Notion that pings whoever's working on an episode. They'll be tagged into that episode. It will ping the people via Discord to let them know that an audio is late, if it's behind time, or if there's been any change to that episode. If it's now with the narrator, with the editor, it will ping a message to them to let them know where the status of the episode, and we can. I mean, that's just one small aspect, but like it's constantly fine tuning. It's like a big engine, and I just like to go in and see, oh, that doesn't quite work right. How can I take this specific part and make that work smoother, to make less of a headache for everyone involved? Because, like I said, there were times early on where we were like almost not going to meet the deadline, not get the audio out on a Monday morning, um, but and it was like heart attack inducing at times. Like it was so stressful. So I know how bad it can be. So I'm constantly trying to work out ways to alleviate those stresses for everyone involved, to make sure everyone's having a good time. Like it's a big party, and I don't want anyone to be stressed out just to try and make something that's supposed to be fun for everyone. So yeah, I mean, so it might seem like I'm doing a lot more than I am, but I'm just tinkering with the engine And although it does take, a bit of manual effort from my side every now and again, like a lot of times I'm just trying to make sure everything runs smoothly.
But you also record the intro outro every time, do you not?
Yeah, that's so again, I built I built a system. So if we reuse writers and narrators, I just plug them into the system and it builds my credits sheet for me. And the only thing that does take effort on that side is writing the ridiculous jokes and gags and stuff, which I just enjoy doing anyway. Like I enjoy
The
saying
superpowers that the new patrons have.
that's like a monthly creative exercise. Try and think of all I have to do is think about Foxmen. Which powers did those guys have? All I have to, I mean, every month we get new patrons, and I have to for the listeners, they get a superpowered shout out. I create a superpower for them, and tell everyone about their superpower on the podcast. And it always is something ridiculous and ludicrous, quite surreal, absurd. I can't remember any off the top of my head, but it will be something like someone can talk to the sun, or I don't know, something weird like that. But that's pretty fun. I really enjoy that because it feels like it'd be quite for me just to turn up and not do that kind of stuff. But I really want to put in that extra effort to make it really special for the listeners and for the people who support the podcast. And for me, I want to be able to listen to that back in 10 years' time and go, oh, yeah, I want that experience.
Yes, quite right, quite right.
I think it's quite interesting because if you look at kind of creativity now, and we all have all these tools that allow us to go and put our own stuff out there, but then there's so much kind of admin to that as well. There's so much kind of it's not just it's long gone are the days where you could just go, here's my creative thing, Mr. Publisher Man, please go and do that with as you will. Oh, you don't want to? Oh, okay, I guess I don't get to be a creative then. But the downside to that is you have to learn all these different things. So I think that's quite an interesting thing that you're saying there about find the ways to make your life easier and kind of reduce the kind of the admin boring side and the automating and the repeating stuff. So
or team up with someone who enjoys the stuff that like you're not good at. I'm really terrible at doing the social media stuff. Ben is he is an engine. He is a social media machine. He just enjoys, I don't know, putting together that content and sharing and talking about that stuff on all the different platforms. I just don't know how to work that into my life. I just couldn't do that. So I think building a team around this kind of thing helps. Because not everyone can do everything. There's far too much for everybody to do. Well, there's some people do seem to manage it. Gemma and Moore, who you said will be on the show at some point, seems to absolutely kill. Sorry, I have a spoiler alert.
You heard it here first, folks.
But she seems to like do everything and do it amazing. So some people can.
Yeah.
I mean, the illustration she does for her covers, I mean, that was the sort of thing that would take me about 4 months to do. And she seems to just be like, hey, here you go, here's another one.
It'll take me about 3 lifetimes to do. So,
yeah. 4 months, I would still come out with something that looked like, a drawing of a stick figure.
I brung my crayons, so I did, yes.
Exactly, yeah. When I first kind of met you, I think I bought this rather splendid book here, 1 to 5 Million, which is your book, kind of charting your lessons learned from podcasting in your pants when no one was looking. And at that point, you had 5 million downloads, but I believe you've kind of smashed that quite considerably now. So what's the other stories on now?
It's like a bit over 9 million now.
Amazing.
It's weird though. At some point, that means less and less in a weird way. I mean, it's nice to. So for the longest time, everyone has a creator bio that they use for their publications and such. And for the longest time, I didn't even talk about that stuff, the stats. But I mean, Dan Howarth said you should put that in your bio. Like, even to me, it feels maybe very anti-British to be like, yeah, look at these stats. Look at all this stuff that I've done.
Yeah.
But I get you do have to put that stuff front and center because you need something. If you get any kind of win, no matter how small it is, you need to be able to use that to leverage yourself to get to the next big win. So put it out front and center, celebrate these achievements, even if you do feel quite uncomfortable with them,
Mm.
and then try and use those to get the next big win, whatever that is.
It's the social proof thing, isn't it? I suppose, if nine
Yeah.
million other people have, or well, yeah, obviously they've not all just downloaded one episode. That's probably quite a smaller number downloading most of them because they're all very good.
Yeah.
But it's still,
Also, at the
it's
same
it's
time, sorry,
sorry.
I just say, also at the same time, do you not feel like you're upset? Like some people don't want to see that stuff. It makes them feel bad for what they're working on themselves. I do feel like when people talk about their word counts, they're like, "Oh yeah, I banged out 20 million words last week." Like there's like some writers I know who will take that as a sort of a slight against them. They'll think, "Why can't I do that in my own projects?" But so I do feel a bit weird about it sometimes because I don't know. It's just I don't want anyone to feel bad.
But I think we're all in different places, aren't we? I mean, you guys, like you said, you've got those systems working together really well. You've got a really good team. It was a very good concept in the first place, and obviously you get good stories in as well. I mean, other people, with fiction podcasts, for example, might just
Mm.
might be working as a solo project, or maybe with fewer members of the team. They might not have the same kind of capacity for socials like Ben. This. I mean, I know what you mean. Like people will take it as a slight, but I think
Mm.
it's important always, isn't it, to like kind of be aware of like, well, my circumstances are my circumstances, and they're not the same as somebody over here who might have an
Yeah.
easier or a harder ride.
I think in that book, Paul, I actually talk about how after the other story started to do really well, I actually didn't take it very well. It started to be really successful. I found myself more depressed than I've ever been in my life. I was like, why am I depressed? Like, this is something I've made is I'm like validating myself against a number of downloads, which is a big number. Surely a bigger number must mean more happiness. But I was like more depressed than ever. It was only when I just like when in terms of like writing the little jokes, the stupid jokes in the intros and outros, it's that kind of thing that keeps me happy. Like actually just enjoying the process of making something with my friends and all kind of working together on this cool project. That's the kind of stuff that kind of keeps me centered and keeps me grounded. If I can laugh at something I'm writing as I'm writing it, if I'm chuckling to myself, then I know that I'm good. If I'm measuring myself against the download numbers we're getting, oh, we've got like 1,000 less downloads this week. Holy shit, this isn't good at all. The world's going to end. Like I have to sort of not worry about that stuff at all in my own head and just enjoy the process of creating stuff.
Yeah, I think that's really important, isn't it? To just like if you start getting really worried about the numbers, in no matter what how you're doing it, if it's YouTube video counts or book sales or chart positions,
Yeah,
that sort of stuff, it can just drive you mad. There's it's in no way beneficial to your kind of creative drive.
And I
So
think so often
yeah,
as well, it's like it's not like directly related to anything that you've done or to the work or anything at all. I mean, there are times when I'll do marketing pushes on my fiction, and the numbers will tick up a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction. Then there are other times
yeah.
where I'm busy as hell. I'm doing other stuff. I don't have time to do any promotion, and suddenly, boom, 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 stuff's going crazy, and I'm just like, unless I mean, I've as much chance of figuring out why that happens if I was like a
Mm.
sort of an ancient Roman soothsayer as I were to try and look at the numbers, because I don't know why they're happening. So yeah,
Yeah,
you can't get too preoccupied, I suppose.
yeah. You just gotta um you're a runner, aren't you, Kev?
Yeah.
So the times where you really don't want to go for a run,
Mm.
and you just feel like I can't even think about going out for a run at the minute, and you force yourself to go out and you run, and it's it's a bit of a longer run, so it's like a longer run to your normal run.
Yeah.
You manage to make it all the way around, and then you're absolutely exhausted. You give like a bit of a final push to get to the end. There's like nothing. There's never a more quiet moment in my mind
Mm.
like a more I'm more satisfied with myself than after one of those runs where I can just take my headphones out and it's like utter peace. I
Yeah.
feel completely like I've pushed myself, I've done something, I've put some effort into the world, and now I feel like I don't mind. I'm completely okay with stuff. I feel the same way with like creative works. Like if I know that I'm doing my best, if I know if I'm pushing myself to create something, and if I'm putting something into it, some part of my soul into it, and all the other stuff doesn't really matter as long as I've done that. As long as I feel good in myself in what I've done, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does make a lot of sense. And I was going to talk to you about this actually because I know you've mentioned before on your podcast, on social media as well, about
Mm.
um, like the kind of relationship you have with like the work you write. I've said it's very kind of kind of defies genre. It just has this kind of like weirdness, this strangeness that kind of like glues it together with your stuff. And you've talked before about on your podcast about how that isn't necessarily going to be something that is going to be a bestseller, let's say.
Mm.
And like, how do you feel about that? Like, do you ever get the urge to just go, oh, I'm going to write a commercial thing and just boom, bosh it out the door and just get loads of sales? Or do you feel, because I mean, from what you're saying there, it sounds to me like, like it's the creative process itself that kind of lights you up. And I'll shut up now.
No, it's good. Well, I think yeah, I mean, I've tried to do commercial stuff before. The times when I really just kind of bent myself out of shape
Mm.
to fit into, you see like an octopus small climb through like a tiny hole in a boat. That's like the times I've tried to do that to fit into this narrow hole of um, product market fit is what they call it.
Okay.
I wasn't. I mean, I like what I've done with that work, but I just don't feel like it really represents me, or it's something that I feel I can really shout out about. It's just work that I've done, and I have tried since then to write more to market, try and bend what I do towards the market, but it just comes out a little bit weird. Like the last thing, I think Paul asked me to do something, and I sent him a short story. I was like, "I'm really sorry, I've done it again. It's come out weird."
It's very weird, but at the same time, it is glorious and wonderful, and it's so very, very you. And I think it's interesting. I see that you are really leaning in that sort of bizarro direction, and you've got a book coming out soon, I believe, which I think has possibly one of my favorite book titles that I've ever heard. Do you want to tell us about that?
It's called My Dog Shits Cash,
Amazing.
and it's kind of like it's about a guy called Nathan Alabaster who is in a dark period of his life, um, suicidal, I'm afraid to say,
Ish.
and then his childhood dog moves into his life. She's telepathic. She speaks to Nathan with her mind. She shits cash and she can catch balls, and it is absurd, but also, at the same time, I feel like it's like a really emotionally grounded story. Um, it's like I feel like those kind of stories, those bizarro stories that are absurd. I find them best when the emotional grounding is really resonant. Like it really kind of rings true. Like Pixar movies are like this. Like they're kind of absurd. Like Up is an absurd movie. I would
Mm.
call Up a bizarro movie, but it's so grounded in like a real character. What's his name? Frank, is it or something? The old guy
Yeah. I know the guy you
who
mean. I can't remember his name now.
whose
I'll have to
wife dies and
Google.
he
Yeah.
flies his house to South America, and gets um, fights the. Oh, there's an army of dogs in that as well. But like, I think I just really enjoy that kind of absurd idea that can be used when you're not worrying about story logic so much. You're not worrying about uncanniness. You're worrying about getting past logic and kind of communicating with someone on a sort of a maybe a deeper level when you're not worrying about uh, verisimilitude and you're worrying more about communicating something that's in your heart. And I think if you were to read those works, you might think you're in for some it's random for random's sake, but I think you'd be quite surprised by
Mm.
the emotional resonance, and at least the resonance that I'm trying to put into there.
Yeah, that was there in your previous book as well. The Run Fantastic. I think that's right. It's interesting you talk about Up. I mean, that is a literal emotional grounding. It like starts off on the ground and gives you nothing but emotion for 30 minutes, and then goes right. You've had enough of that. Let's go on a fun ride. You know.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, I think you're right. I think it's all about sort of the grounding of it and making sure that there's something there that people still care about. Otherwise, why go on the crazy wild ride?
yeah, exactly. I was. Have you done The Artist's Way? Is it called that? The
No.
Julia Cameron thing.
No.
So you might have heard like artist dates or artist pages.
Oh yeah,
You heard
yeah,
about
yeah.
that stuff. So the Artist's Way is a book by Julia Cameron. It's quite a big creative piece of work that I think a lot of people get a lot out of. And it's like a 12-week program, and it's designed for if you're struggling with yourself creatively, or if you've lost yourself along the way, you can go through these 12 weeks, and it's supposed to help you re-find yourself. There's one week in there where it mentioned finding the stuff that you really love and making a collage out of it. So I did that. I was taking different screenshots from different films that I love and different music albums, and like putting it all together into this crazy collage of stuff that like they just feeds me in some strange way inside me, and like whatever that is, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. It's kind of like the ache, like it gives you a bit of an ache in your soul, but at the same time, it's ludicrous and silly, and it makes you laugh, like, or maybe horrifies you a couple of times. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do with the Bizarro work. Anyway, I still enjoy writing like terribly horrific stuff as well, but that's just a different aspect of what I want to do, I guess.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, we'll put that in the show notes as well. And on the website, we're going to try and keep a track of all the things that people recommend and what have you. So,
Yeah, it's really good.
well, I think we're probably running a bit close on time now. So, just wanted to say, is there any sort of last thoughts? Is sort of if you were to try and address an entire audience of creative people, and you could only distill it into all your wisdom into one nugget of truth, please think of that in the next 5 seconds.
No pressure. No pressure. Like.
2, 1.
Well, I think so there's two aspects, I guess, in this one nugget of advice. One aspect is when you sit down to write your story, make your film, make your comic, whatever. I think you should impress yourself first, or you should feed yourself first before you start worrying about uh, how anyone else is going to perceive it. Start entertaining yourself first, and make it the kind of story that you would pick up somewhere and go, "Fucking hell, I wish I wrote that. That's so good. I wish I wrote that." Try and impress yourself. Try and push yourself to the point where you feel like that's touching on something that I really want to do. That's the kind of work that I want to be doing. Try and get yourself to that point. Don't worry about right to market or bending to other people or fitting through tiny holes in boats. Don't worry about that at all. The other aspect is I think we all want someone with big pockets and a lot of money, someone who has a lot of stature to take us, put their arm around our shoulders and say, "Yeah, you're good. I'm going to say yes to you. I'm going to make you, I don't know, I'm going to give you the publishing deal. I'm going to give you the film deal. Don't worry, I've got you. You're completely settled. I've got you in my arms." We all want somebody to choose us, somebody to validate what we're doing. But I don't think it really works like that. I don't think there's almost no point in wanting to be chosen by someone else. You have to choose yourself, and you have to sort of start like with Keith. Like I could have just continued to try and apply for funding, but I wasn't going to get it. I was just never going to get that funding. So instead, choose yourself, make the stuff you want to make, um, be the arm around your own shoulder, and I don't think you need much more than that. I honestly don't. I think you in today's digital world, you have all the tools you need to make absolutely professional work that reaches people all over the world. You can build your own audiences. You don't need someone to put their arm around your shoulder who has deep pockets full of money. It's all there already. Just make the stuff that you love and start getting it out there.
Yeah, and I think it's important as well to say, like, it doesn't have to be like overnight, does it? I mean, like, people work at different paces, and like obviously if you've got like the kind of work-life balance that enables you to do that quickly, then great. But if not, then you can keep plugging away at it. Like if you write, what was it I read the other day? Like if you write 500 words a day, how many words is that a year? It's absolutely bloody loads. I'm not a mathematician, sorry guys. 600,000 words, something like that, you know, something
like that.
crazy, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
700, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just plug away. Just keep forcing yourself to do the work. Keep getting to the point where you feel like you've achieved your lot for the day and you can chill out and grab a beer, take your dog for a walk and feel guilt free. That's just quieten the screaming voices in your head, then you'll be completely fine.
Yeah. Oh,
Wait,
by the way,
they can go
when is
quiet?
my dog?
Say again.
When is my dog shit's cash out?
I am doing a bit of an experiment with it. I am doing. I didn't want to just put it on. So this isn't the kind of book that is gonna Penguin Random House are gonna pick up and send to Richard and Judy or Oprah for their book club. It's not going to be that kind of book. My Dog Shit's Cash isn't going to be in W.H. Smith's next to the magazines. So, and it's not going to tickle Amazon's algorithms either. I don't think there's even a bizarre genre. There isn't even a magic realism genre, which is insane. What if there was? Where does Haruki Murakami put his work?
Yeah,
Where does
do you know what I mean?
Kafka sit? It's
Ridiculous.
like, so I'm doing a bit of work. I'm doing a Kickstarter campaign, which almost feels a bit weird to say for a prose fiction project, but it's going to be for a limited hardcover edition and an audio adaptation, which will be like a 3-hour long. I don't know if it'll be 3 hours long. I don't know how long it would be. Between 2 and 3 hours of an audio adaptation with an original score. It's going to be like a fair bit of work, but I'm really happy with how it's coming out. It seems, you know, earlier when I mentioned about the thing where you feel like you've made something that you were supposed to do. This feels like one of those. So I'm doing a very, very small Kickstarter campaign on the 31st of May.
Okay.
It'd be very nice for people to check it out.
We will host the hell out of that on our guest area for sure.
I think it's a responsibility of everyone listening to or watching this podcast to try and make Luke Kondor the next Brandon Sanderson of Kickstarter funding. So I think we should try and make that happen,
great.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will happen, won't it?
Yeah,
it will,
I
right?
think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
It'll be fine.
I believe.
Yeah, 40 million. Guaranteed.
Is that what you got? 40 million?
40 million.
40 million. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is quite impressive.
Doable.
Yeah. But okay, well, thank you so much for spending some time with us this evening, Luke, and thanks for your pearls of wisdom, which were very pearly indeed. So before we go, is obviously you told us about your book coming out, obviously, and the other stories. Is there anything else that you want to let us know about? Any projects or irons in the fire that you've got that you want to talk about?
No, I don't think so. Not yet. I think My Dog Shit's Cash is a number one priority in my own mind, other than the other stories. But other than that, it's all under wraps at the minute. All the other bits and pieces.
Where can our listeners and viewers find you, Luke?
Go to lukekondor.com. It's Kondor with a K. Kilo Oscar November Delta Oscar Romeo. Write it down. I only say that because every time I tell people it's Kondor with a K, and I've been in front of people and said it's Kondor with a K,
anyway.
They write it with a C. What? Literally just told you.
Not paying attention. My God.
Yeah. I'll go to hawkandcleaver.com and check out what we're doing there. All the other stories.net. I think that's everything. And
socials, like, is there a social media where they're more likely to find you lurking?
I think I'm on most of them, and it's always at Luke of Kondor. Twitter, I find I'm naturally on more, but I think I have more fun on Instagram. I don't know why I keep going to Twitter.
I think you've got quite a visual sensibility anyway, haven't you? So yeah, you like the visual side of things with your little weird poems and stuff like that. So yeah,
maybe it's that.
Yeah, it's definitely worth a follow anyway. Good. Well, cheers. Thank you very much for joining us, Luke.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
thanks for having me.
And yeah, I'm sure we'll have you back on at some point. So to tell us about your £40 million Kickstarter campaign and what our cut's going to be for promoting it. Cool. Okay, brilliant. Cheers.
Nice one.
Thank you. Well, wasn't that great?
Fantastic. What a lovely chap.
What an absolutely excellent man. And what a great hat he was wearing as well.
Yes. He's always with hat. And I think that's a bold choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you've forgotten or if you didn't get around to it in the first place, remember, do go and check out My Dog Shit's Cash, which is on Kickstarter. It's already funded to 100%. So you're guaranteed to get a lovely ebook or audiobook or paperback or hardcover or whatever it is you choose to order. So it's already definitely going to happen. But do go and back it. You're going to laugh yourself silly.
Yeah. Backed in 90 minutes, I think it was,
Yeah,
which
amazing.
is
Absolutely amazing.
a testament to Luke himself, but also the community he's built, and the talent that he has. So excellent.
Sure.
Well, thank you very much for joining me again, Kev. But before we go, is there anything going on with you at the moment? Any sort of news or anything that you'd like to talk about? He says,
Yeah,
knowing that there is.
I think I mentioned last time that my novella Below is coming back out, and that's actually out now. It's come out through Bridget's Press. So when that died as a result of the Silver Shamrock stuff, they very quickly stepped in and said they would like to re-release it. So that one is available now in ebook and paperback. So I'm very happy about that. And also this week, just this week until the 11th, actually, which is Saturday, this book here, my short story collection, Paths Best Left Untrodden, is available in ebook for only 99 cents or 99p, wherever you are in the world. It's selling like hotcakes. So grab yourself a copy, and for less than a coffee, and read some scary shorts. What about you, man? What's going on with you?
Not a massive amount. So what I'll do is I'll just use my time to say that yes, everyone should go out and get a nice ebook copy of Paths Best Left Untrodden. Or do you know what? Just go and get the paperback because it'll look really, really nice on your bookshelf. And even if it's not on sale, it's just bloody lovely and some excellent stories in there. And I heartily endorse it. But yeah, as for me, not a lot going on. Had a new episode of Bleakwood come out since we last spoke. So go and check out.
In the best possible way.
Yes, it's a fun ride, and hopefully should have another one out next week as well. So go and check out Bleakwood Podcast if you've not done so already. But other than that, I think we've gone very, very long today with our long chat with Luke. So I think probably best leave it there.
Yeah, we'll bid you all farewell.
Yeah, and we'll be back next week. We've got an excellent interview with a very, 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 very funny man next week. So
be prepared to cry.
Yeah, exactly.
Tears of laughter.
Yeah, exactly. So excellent. We'll thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.